The Toronto Blue Jays are adamant on running it back in 2025 and making sure that the team remains competitive. And a big asterisk to that is having Bo Bichette back and playing like Bo has in the past 4 years. But some reports are coming out that the Blue Jays may entertain some trade offers on him. And when it was originally expected that they were going to hold on to him at least for next season and then try to extend him, that tune may have changed. So we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside a host, Nick Gosse. And before we get into the Bo Bichette trade rumors and maybe discussing his future with the Toronto Blue Jays, Nick, why don't you tell me about Fume?
Are you trying to kick a bad habit to the curb? If so, you need to check out Fume. Have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits led by the sponsor of today's video, Fume. Fume has a lot of delicious flavors to choose from crisp mint to cinnamon hearts. They have a flavor just for you. With flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation through a passive diffusion system that utilizes no electronics, no vapor, and no combustion. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story.
And for a limited time, use our code DIGEST to get your free topper. It's the perfect accessory to your Fume device. Slip it onto a mouthpiece for a softer, warmer feel. It's chewable for those who love to fidget, and it's reusable. Head to tryfume.com. That's tryfum.com and use code DIGEST or scan the QR code on screen to get your free Fume topper when you order your Journey Pack today.
And thank you to Fume for sponsoring this video. Thank you again to Fume for sponsoring this one. Check them out in the pinned comment and the description as well. But Peter, some Bo Bichette trade buzz rumors, especially heading into the offseason. And we had a video yesterday on Leo Jimenez discussing the future of him and maybe how Bo Bichette can impact that. And then this report drops from Bob Nightingale, as well as just some other things. So we also have MLB analyst Steve Phillips, who tuned in basically saying the Jays are shopping Bo Bichette this winter. He discussed his trade value, but originally all came from Bob Nightingale yesterday, saying the Toronto Blue Jays, or the day before, are expected to entertain trade offers this winter for shortstop Bo Bichette, who has no plans to stay in Toronto once he's a free agent after next season. And there's a lot more to dive into regarding this report, but I just want to get your original thoughts on this, Peter. So according to Bob Nightingale, again, take it with a grain of salt, but he says Bo has no plans to stay in Toronto once he's a free agent, and the Jays, because of this, and they're aware of this, are looking to potentially trade the shortstop just in a few months' time once this season is up. And this is something we both kind of expected, but it seems to be in stone that they're at least going to entertain trade offers and see what they can get back for him.
It's weird that they're doing this in the off season as opposed to maybe mid-season next year. I thought that they were going to try to see where the team was at by the trade deadline next year and then maybe try to entertain offers. But at the same time, you'll probably get a lot more for Bo Bichette now for a full year of his services as opposed to 60 games of his services. And you just never know with him, like he doesn't wear his emotions out publicly. Like he's pretty quiet guy generally, so it's probably very hard to tell where he's at in terms of his headspace and how he's viewing your franchise and maybe wanting to stay there. But what I say to that personally, I say good riddance. He basically I didn't need this report to confirm that he has no plans to stay in Toronto. It was pretty evident with his body language and the way that he conducted himself on the field every single night for the Blue Jays when he was on there before he got injured for the season. So yeah, maybe he has no plans to return, but I don't think Bob Nightingale needed to confirm that for us, Nick. I think it was pretty obvious that Bo was checked out and did not want to be in Toronto. And if you don't want to be here, then go, leave. What did Vladdy do when the going got tough? He stepped it up and he showed that he can be the leader of this ball club. And despite having 5 or 6 rookies in your lineup on a nightly basis, Vladdy is the one taking charge and upping his game and showing them how to be a successful big leaguer, even though some of them are even older than Vladdy. And he's been around the block and he's doing things the right way. I love his attitude. I love his approach. And maybe that could have been a question mark last season, but this year I think he's dispelled all of those concerns for me. Just the way that he's gone about his business and the fact that he said all the right things in the media, that he wants to be here. He's conducting his own interviews now in English as well. So he's taking steps to become a better leader. he has become the leader of this ball club, and younger guys are looking to him to lead the way and show how it's done at the big league level. What did Bo do when the going got tough? He crumbled and he disappeared. So I don't know if I want a player like that to earn big time money if I'm the Blue Jays front office, if he's not even going to show a somewhat of a commitment back to your franchise. So again, I say good riddance, and the Blue Jays have prospects in that position, like Arjun Amala, who might be ready sooner rather than later to come up and take the reins and be the leader at the shortstop position, because Bo has had every single chance over the last half decade to do so, and he's failed. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt if it's Bob Nightingale, but I really don't think we needed that report to see that Bo was checked out, because we called it from probably the first month of the season, the way that he was performing. And usually he shows some frustration. He didn't even look frustrated. He just looked like he did not want to be there. And that just doesn't sit right with me as a Blue Jay fan.
Yeah, and whether you like Bo Bichette, I mean, I'm a bit higher on him than you are, but at the same time, he obviously is one of the best hitters in baseball when he's healthy. But this season, something changed, and obviously they've been having internal conversations, I'm sure, about this. And if you look at what Bob Nightingale said exactly, he said if I had to rank Bo coming back without a new contract, Bo being traded, or Bo getting a new free agent deal, he would go the most likely option is Bo being traded, followed by Bo coming back with the same contract. And the third, aka the least likely option, is Bo coming back with a new deal, buying out his free agency. And he's basically saying that him, along with, I guess, the insiders he has, believes that Bo needs a change of scenery. I think everything we've seen tells us that. And I mean, Bob's kind of hitting the nail on the head here. He agrees, and I mean, it makes sense. Again, he's such a good player. It's very unfortunate, but I think if you're the Jays, and if Bo has made it clear he doesn't want to return, I'm with you on the fact that just make sure you trade him. I'm fine trading him in the offseason if he doesn't want to be here, rather than trading him halfway through the season and getting less value. Even though, if there's one positive sign to this, Peter, we obviously know that Ross Atkins said he wants to run it back. If this is their change of course and they decided, hey, we got a pretty big haul for all the players at the trade deadline, maybe they'll say, okay, let's do a bit of a retool here around Bo Bichette and around our younger players. I would not mind that whatsoever. But I don't know. It's interesting. But they also, a part of this report is that they do want to try signing Guerrero before he reaches free agency, which we kind of knew, but kind of confirms Vladdy's the future of this team, and Bo Bichette is most likely going to be not a Toronto Blue Jay by 2026, whether that's traded, whether that's walking in free agency, or whether that's just trading him at the deadline next year.
Yeah, and I agree with that you need to sign Vladdy before you make these trades, because even if you do trade Bo and you keep Vladdy around, he's still very young. So you're still going to have a lot of prime years of Guerrero left to go. And having a couple of tough seasons would not be the worst thing, waiting for some prospects to pan out, because Vladdy is still going to be able to produce at a very high level. At least you would expect so once he's 27, 28, maybe 29 years old. So yeah, maybe you'll have a couple of tough seasons if you accelerate this retool process a little bit, but getting back a haul for Bo Bichette could really help you in doing so. And I think he can get you a pretty good return as well. I don't believe that this season really tanked his value as much as we think it did, because he is still one of the more consistent performers in baseball. Like, look at those numbers the past few years. He's sleepwalking his way to a 290 average pretty much. And even though he has had a really down season this year and he's not even playing currently, I still think he's a premier shortstop. And getting him on a 1 year deal for around $20 million a season, when you see 30-year-old shortstops like Carlos Correa and Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts getting paid $35 million a season, I think that's a very attractive rental piece for some teams that are looking to compete, but maybe not commit all of that big money to a shortstop who may not age too well in his contract. So I think he's going to get you a ton of value back in return, and the Blue Jays should be all over this. Like I said, I'm surprised that they're doing it in the offseason as opposed to mid-season next year, but why wait? Why wait if he doesn't want to be here and you can get a better return for him now than you would, let's say, 6 or 8 months down the line from now? So I'm all in on this. I've never been too high on Bo Bichette. I know you know that. I know a lot of the people watching this channel know that as well, and they have for some time now. And I'm not going to say I was right in my assessment of him, because he's still a good player. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a good player, but I just don't think he's the right piece as to be labeled a cornerstone for the Toronto Blue Jays and turning the corner. Like Vladdy, I don't know if he's that either. I'm not convinced either, but still, he's showing some really good things this year, and he's taken strides as a player on and off the field. And I think that's someone that you want to keep around. And just his name alone will bring some brand recognition to the Toronto Blue Jays. So just from a pure business standpoint, I think it makes sense to keep Vladdy, and he's a pretty damn good player as well. But Bo, he just looks miserable out there. He looks like he doesn't want to be a Blue Jay, and I don't want a player like that on my team, if I'm being totally honest with you. And it hasn't always been like that with him. He's always shown some sort of emotion, but this year was just a totally different Bo than we've been used to lately. And to that, I say go get what you can for him because you got some pretty good returns for a lot lesser players this deadline. So I believe you should test that market.
Yeah, if he doesn't want to be here, let him go. And I'm sure the return would be pretty big, even if he has 1 year left on his deal. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. Do you want to see Bo Bichette traded, or out of these three options, what would you prefer the most? But that'll wrap it up. And thank you again to Fume for sponsoring this one. See you tomorrow.